You're listening to Cattywampus.
I would like to begin the airing of grievances. It's summer, and we're doing some summer loving because we fucking watched Grease from 1978.
Which, by the way, I don't know that I'm ever going to forgive you for making us watch this.
I didn't make you do anything.
He didn't make us.
Kind of did.
We put it in the Slack. It's a discussion. You don't want to take place in the Slack discussion? You end up watching Grease. Remember that next time.
Okay, so, yeah, to David's defense, he did just propose it, and everybody just kind of went, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. For anyone who doesn't know, Grease is a musical film. It's an adaptation of a musical from the early 70s. It's about the late 1950s. Ostensibly, it's a love story. It's one of the early star vehicles for John Travolta. This is right after Saturday Night Fever, which is his first big break after his TV show Welcome Back, Kotter. Movie starts. It's 1958, the summer.
Summer love.
Summer lovin'. Having a blast. So,
It happens so fast.
John Travolta plays...
This movie took forever, actually.
It happened so fast. That one scene.
That one scene, yes.
The summer quick. The rest of the school year, whoo. So John Travolta plays Danny Zuko, and Olivia Newton-John plays Sandy Olsen?
Sure. I was going to say Koufax, but I know that's not
Sandy
right.
Koufax.
The Australian with
Who plays Shoeless Joe Jackson?
Yeah, right.
They meet on a beach. They fall in love. Danny Zuko is actually a greaser. I would like to point out, what is the backstory of Danny Zuko? Because for the rest of the movie, he's this greaser. He's in a gang. He's a hot rodder. But on this beach, he's in fucking white khaki shorts, and he's in a goddamn blue, button Hawaiian shirt.
He's a poser.
Yeah. Was he just running a scam on the beach?
You can kind of see it when he's walking around trying to act cool. I feel like he is just a poser that doesn't know his way.
So is he
I
posing?
thought that was the whole plot of the movie.
Now, granted, he's supposed to be 16, and all these people are played by, I don't know.
50-year-olds.
Yeah, 50-years with 401ks and pensions.
Well, that's what I was saying. When one of our other auxiliary characters shows up at the very beginning, what's her name? Rizzo, I think is what
Rizzo's played by Stockard Channing.
Right. When she shows up and she's just like, it's our senior year, I was like, bitch, you got a mortgage. I don't want to hear that.
It's like, especially with her voice, where it's like, it's my senior year. I've smoked 4 packs
It's my
a day.
senior
I've been
year.
smoking
For 20 years.
Yeah. Just tell me about Kaiser Wilhelm.
This movie is ostensibly a love story. What it's really is it's a fucked gender politic nightmare that's trying to be nostalgic towards the 50s. And I think one of the reasons I think this movie's kind of important, quote unquote, is there's this nostalgia for the 50s. It's this ideal time in America. And Grease is this perfect example of, we try and inject the things we like about our current time back into this time to make this the definition of America that we want. And by we, of course, I mean white men and no one else in society, because this movie does not serve anyone else other than young white men.
I don't even think it serves white men. I don't want to be a part of their ragtag group.
No.
You don't want to join the T-Birds?
No.
How about the Scorpions?
No.
How about the Pink Ladies?
Maybe.
I'd follow Rizzo into hell.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did.
God, this poor woman.
Just period nostalgia is a kind of common thing across generations.
Yes.
I remember my generation was super nostalgic for 80s, even though
Yes.
none of us were actually born in the 80s. We just grew up listening to a lot of things from the 80s and watching 80s films.
Steve-
Fight me?
Steve and I just looked at it.
Yeah, none of us were born in the 80s. It's like,
Steve and
fuck you whippersnapper.
the two old fucks over here with beards.
I'm sorry. Well, some people here were born in the late 80s. My apologies. So with that said...
Or mid.
Mid.
So when you were 3 years old, do you remember everything about 80s culture?
Oh,
Reagan
yeah.
was a problem.
Yeah, I remember 1989. I was 3, coming off my last cocaine binge.
Yeah.
Right.
Reading some Bret Easton Ellis.
Clearly, there
know
were
how
things
it
that happened in
goes.
the 80s that never happened in the 90s.
Preschool was rough on me.
My
Guitar and my flock of seagulls haircut.
Right.
My preschool got shut down by Reagan.
So all I'm
Reagan
saying
shut
is...
down my mental preschool.
There's a nostalgic thing that happens to generations. That's what's going on with Grease in the 50s. It's not right, but
Yeah.
it's accurate.
No.
This happens every generation.
So let's say American Graffiti is your piece of art that is 50s nostalgia. It's the beginning of the late 50s, early 60s nostalgia. Because really, when we say the 50s, we really mean the late 50s, early 60s. When we say the 50s in America, what we're really talking about is post-Korean War, pre-Beatles.
Right.
So we're really talking about 58 to 61 is what we're really talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about
when
like
we talk about 50s nostalgia.
Yeah, you're talking about a 3-year period where people were still just like, let's go to the fucking sock hop.
Yeah, the rise of the teenager as a concept.
Right.
Because if American Graffiti is your text, Grease is like the nail in the coffin at the end of that, you know, before John Hughes takes over the 80s for what teenage culture should be.
Really, this is all about the baby boomers.
Isn't everything in America?
No, but like, I think if you root cause analysis, this movie,
Absolutely.
because look at the years, and World War II ended in the late 40s, right? So
45.
Yeah, 45. Well, some things were still going on through 46, but anyway.
Yeah.
The point is,
We dropped the bomb at 45.
Yeah, I often have baby boomers regale me with tales of racing through empty drainage pipes with
the LA River.
with flame-ridden cars that have giant Mad Max style spokes on the wheels.
Yeah, it's weird. So Danny and so just to kind of give everybody like an overview, Danny and Sandy fall in love on the beach. Sandy turns out her parents are not going to go back to Australia. They enroll her in high school. Doesn't know that it's Danny's high school. So he comes back. He tells everybody like, man, I had this great romance. She meets a bunch of people, the Pink Ladies. Man, I had this great romance. And then Rizzo, Tucker Channing goes, oh shit, she's talking about Danny Zuko. I'm going to wait 6 weeks till homecoming to spring that on her for some reason. Presumably she could have just...
They're in the same school. Like, how did they not run into each other?
And also Rizzo's ultimate plan is to just introduce them. She could have done that like...
Right,
She could have immediately been like, hey, I got a surprise for you. Watch it burn. You know?
That boy's right over there.
Yeah.
Hey, he's right over there. He's the asshole picking on the fucking nerd.
Yeah.
Like-
Oh, Eugene. Oh, boy. We'll get to Eugene. So when Danny comes back, his boy Sonny, who looks to be 47.
57.
Yeah, 68.
He's talking to the principal.
He starts talking to the principal, and they start like what I can only describe as 70s porn flirting.
Yeah.
But it's weird because they were like, hey, maybe we'll bane erasers after in detention. And I was like, most people who do this in porn are younger than these two people.
Yeah.
Why cast all these old ass people to be high school kids?
So one of the Pink Ladies is actually like 19 or 20.
I'm assuming everybody else is probably in their mid 30s.
Yeah, it's 20s to late 30s. The premise of the movie, the kind of crux of the movie, is that Danny is embarrassed by admitting he's fallen in love with someone, especially someone who is quote unquote an ingenue, a goody two shoes. Like she's going to join the tryout squad, she's going to join the tryout squad. She's going to try out for the cheerleader squad.
She's going to try out for the tryout squad.
try out for the Try Hard squad.
Yeah, she's going to join the cheerleader squad, and he's like this, tough as nails, greaser, gain member. They got a gain war going. They got a rebel out of a cause thing going, and his ex is the head of the Pink Ladies who's fallen in love with his other friend Kaneki. And it's just this, so John Travolta's character Danny is just sort of awkward around this girl he clearly like has this connection to. And it's also this really weird version of history where and granted maybe this is how it was in the 50s, but I don't think so. Basically, this American teenage kid in high school is embarrassed about his a very attractive foreign girlfriend who's now at his high school. It's the equivalent of if we all went to high school together and I went, hey, I got a girlfriend in Canada, and you all went, sure, and then fucking Colby Smulders showed up and A still wanted to date me, and somehow I was like, get away, I'm embarrassed by you in front of my friends, and I was like, this makes no fucking sense to me.
It came across to me more like he had appearances to keep up. That's all it
but
was.
what are those appearances?
That's what I'm saying.
Of
He's
being
a,
just an
he's a-
asshole.
he's
Of not fucking this attractive foreign woman?
that's why I'm saying he's a fucking poser.
He can't act like him quote unquote self in front of her because he's got to be an asshole in front of all his friends.
Right.
He doesn't really
and
belong
she's not
in
the
this
kind of
gang.
girl that,
Right.
The rest of his gang seems so interested in
T-Birds.
any girl that will talk to them. And then he is just
Yeah,
like...
they're desperate.
Yeah. And
They
he
are
is like, absolutely not. You will not talk to me in
desperate.
front of my friends. And I'm like, why? What did she do? You have a beautiful woman approaching you, and you're like, oh, I don't know her. Ugh, get her away from
But
me.
she's not cool. That's the problem. It's just like...
Yeah,
He's not- they're not cool.
Right. Even in the world where they're cool, the idea that she's not cool is insane.
Right. It's stupid. It's almost like this is a shitty movie.
Is this a gang of incels?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a little...
Is that why he's like, I've got a chance to have like a girlfriend, but I can't do
I mean,
that 'cause
Sonny is definitely a fucking incel, and because we'll get to what Sonny does later, which I fucking find unconscionable. Anyway, it's the senior year of high school, and part of the big kind of like Act 2 midfield is we're building towards National Bandstand, because I guess we couldn't get the rights to American Bandstand, showing up to shoot a dance-off at their school. It was kind of like in Street Fighter when the Allied nations showed up instead of the UN.
Yeah.
Because
they couldn't get the rights to the UN.
So the first big move of this movie is pep rally. To Brian's point about how lame the T-Birds are, they are parked 4 feet from this goddamn rally to make fun of it, but they've clearly been there for the whole rally.
Yeah, they came to hang out.
Right.
They're cool because they're off to the side smoking cigarettes, but they're still there.
Oh my
the
God.
real cool kids would be out drinking by the river,
So
not
many
hanging out at
cigarettes.
your school pep rally.
The first scene,
Yes.
the first time you see Travolta, he's smoking a cigarette right in front of the door. Now, I know the 50s weren't the same as today, but surely
Well, I mean,
this wasn't that
even the
common.
Have you heard Stockard Channing's voice? That high schooler is smoking like 18 packs a day.
Even the gym teacher, like, he sees the cigarettes and he's just like, you got to cut it back from 2 packs to 1 pack.
Yeah, he goes.
Or
You
3
gotta
packs
cut.
to
You know,
2
he
packs.
goes. You got to cut. Sid Caesar says you have to cut down to 2 packs a day if you want to be an athlete.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then, people
I was just like, that's insane.
in
Like,
that time period, people like you'd go to the fucking gym with a cigarette in your mouth.
I always talked about this with Captain America in the 40s, where like I would be the 40s version of Captain America, where I'm athletic the way Babe Ruth was athletic. In which I'm like, hold my cigar before I go out there and knock this slugger out.
But you look so cool doing it, you know?
I know, right?
I don't know that Babe Ruth ever really looked cool.
A lot of
I
people,
mean,
a lot of people
two
disagree.
people in the 40s. Having seen Ken Burns baseball, I think he looks pretty fucking cool. So, Danny and Sandy meet at the pep rally. He tries to act cool. It really falls apart for him because A, he doesn't come off as cool. B, his friends still embarrass him. And C, Sandy now doesn't fucking like him because he's being a real dick about it. And Rizzo's plan, whichever it is come together now. So then there's a sleepover with the pink ladies and Sandy. At which point Frenchie, he's the one who wants to be a beautician, really seems like she really wants to like fuck Sandy and or wear her skin. And Rizzo's
Is
just
Frenchie the one that pierces her ear? And
yeah, Frenchie's the one who goes
yeah.
to beauty school but fails.
Yeah.
So the T-Birds come by the slumber party to like break it up and get laid, and Rizzo's like, I'm gonna go get a train run on me, which is actually a line of dialogue.
No. She says, "What do you think this is? A gangbang?
Yeah,
Get out of here."
I'm sorry, you're right, not a train. Very different.
Yeah.
But she
Very
doesn't. She doesn't want the gangbang. She's saying, "Get the fuck out of here, so I can go bang this one dude."
Well, that's another good example too, where she and so first Rizzo shows up and kind of like starts talking to John Travolta, and the way like Stockard Channing and John Travolta play it, I'm like, I don't think Rizzo and Danny dated so much as Rizzo raped Danny.
yeah.
Because Danny looks real scared of Rizzo and bolts immediately like, I don't want to talk to her.
Rizzo's like the only woman who doesn't let anyone like sexualize her in this movie. She just does what she wants.
She
and she's
sexualizes
about it.
herself
Yeah, right,
to
yeah.
prevent being sexualized or to
She-
prevent
she-
being treated in demeaning ways. And hey, we've all been there.
Yeah, it's true.
But
I'm not throwing stones.
But the game vein line is kind of does lead me to one vid where she's like, "Hey guys, get out," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, get out." Like if I were,
But you don't have to say this isn't a gangbang.
But if I were Kaneki, like if we were all in a car together, like those are not good friends. Like if a girl drops into a car next to my friend and I'm in the back and she starts getting up on him, I'm like, I need to leave.
What, your initial instinct's not to go, hey, can
Hey,
I
can I
just
get
stay
in
and
on
watch?
this?
Can I just, like, maybe at least watch or something? I don't
And
know.
you know the leader of that fucking Sonny, because he's a goddamn motherfucker. Still not the worst thing he does in this movie. We're gonna get there.
So-
I fucking hated Sonny. In case
So
anyone wondered.
they get to this makeout mountain.
Yes,
Which I've seen in a million movies, but every time
make out point.
every
Make
time
out
they go to
mountain.
Makeout Mountain or Makeout Point or Fuck City,
Fuck
it's usually the
the
one
worst TNT show.
It's usually the one car on the hill with the couple.
Yeah, this one had a few.
It's literally just like an orgy at the top of the hill.
That's actually more accurate to how those things go.
Right.
Yeah, and I was never a part of that.
You also didn't grow up in the late 50s.
I can tell you right now, it was totally a thing where I grew up in this.
Find somewhere
it,
else.
It was a thing.
Find anywhere.
No, I agree.
There
It was
was,
weird.
there was a
There.
fuck mountain.
So Sandy's kind of longing after Danny after this. They got to make out point, and this is where it struck me that this is kind of this weird artifice of of musicals, because in a movie, the idea that there's a scene without Danny or Sandy in it is really weird. Like, there's way too many B and C plots in this movie, because that's what, when you're on a stage, you can't just have Danny and Sandy there for the entire 2 hours of the musical. The costume changes, scene changes don't allow that. So you write in these subplots. Like, we should not be seeing Rizzo and Kaneki on Makeout Point.
Yeah, it added nothing, but it did eventually lead to a plot point.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it wasn't a very necessary plot.
And also,
Yeah.
we saw how that scene went. I'm very curious to know how that plot point was ever thought to be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what, they get rear-ended by that dude from the Scorpions?
Yeah, the leader of the Scorpions, whose name is Leo.
He makes this amazing comment after destroying this dude's fender. I'll give you 75 cents for your car and your girl. And he drives off and backfires his engine.
And I think he goes, your girl, and that's a bar, or he goes, even that's a good deal or something for like he like throws an extra like fuck you to stalker Janie.
He's talking about her like she's property.
Yeah, it was weird. No,
And
then-
he's destroying his
And then
his exhaust.
later goes on to date her.
so kind of. So what happens
Well,
is
you know.
the famous number "Greased Lightning" happens, where this is my favorite character of the movie. They go to shop class. And the shop teacher, Miss Murdoch, who is this older woman, kind of got that old dame kind of quality, like classical dame quality, is the shop teacher, and she is totally down with basically enabling and supporting this game. She's like Patrick Stewart in Green Room for like this fucking game, where she's like, yeah, boys, let's build this car so you can race that motherfucker. So Danny tries to make it up to Sandy by meeting her in the malt shop and trying to like be like, come on, go out with me. And then there's the most horrific line in the movie where he goes, don't make me laugh.
His
Yep.
laugh is so bad.
It's like the Terminator trying to smile.
He's never laughed in his life, and he's just like, ha.
And so Sandy says something that makes Danny go, I should change for this woman. So he immediately goes to the coach, to Sid Caesar, and goes, I'd like to do sports.
One sport ball, please.
Which starts my favorite montage in this
I
movie.
love that scene.
This is the best part of the movie by far. Where
so
Danny basically starts it's a montage where Danny and Sid Caesar, as the coach, go through one sport after another that inevitably end with John Travolta just hitting a man in the face.
Yep.
And Sid Caesar being like, that didn't work.
Well,
Sport
I guess you
after
should try
sport
running.
after sport.
And at no point he ever thought about boxing.
Yeah, I know. So
Well, they tried wrestling, and even wrestling he couldn't fucking do.
well, it's also
Not
funny
without
too,
a face punch.
because kind of like Phantom of the Opera, it reminded me of this weird like cognitive dissonance that can happen in musicals, where they're like, "Well, you're not coordinated." I'm like, he literally dances all the time in
Yeah.
this movie. Same in Phantom of the Opera, because one of the big parts of Phantom of the Opera is that the Phantom can't sing very well. And so he wants Christine Daae to sing his words. But obviously, you watch the Phantom, who can't sing very well, is singing
constantly
perfectly
Yeah.
because it's a musical. And it's like, which is why I, by the way, quick tangent, I don't have a problem with Jared Butler as the Phantom in the adaptation, because the plot of the movie is that he's not a classically trained opera singer. He can't sing very well. Jared Butler does it almost like rock ballads. And then Christine Daae sings in the traditional way. And I'm like, hey, this is how it's actually supposed to be. Anyway, back to Grease.
Do we have to?
More Phantom. The montage ends, the best part of the movie ends. And then Sandy and Danny get in this weird tete-a-tete of like, hey, Sandy shows off in front of, Sandy like goes and talks to Danny in front of her current boyfriend while he's running track, and you're like, who wants what?
She has zero interest in that other boyfriend.
Tom.
Yeah,
Like she straight up is just like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to Danny real quick, and then she's like, look at that goof over there.
Yeah.
Like, it's real awkward.
Yeah.
There's really not many characters in this movie that aren't just shitty human beings.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well,
Like,
so there's the nerd Eugene, who's a pretty decent guy, Eddie Deason, who plays him, and like the gang like makes fun of him and assaults him and knocks his shit out of his hands for a while, and then there's how they treat. This is so weird. So I don't know if this is brought up before this scene, but Danny takes Sandy to the malt shop on a date, but is like really embarrassed to be seen by her for some
Puts
reason.
the menus up to hide them.
Yeah, and then everybody shows up, and then one of his gang, Putsy, goes to one of the pink ladies, Jan, and basically says, "Hey, I like you, even though you're fat." And
Yeah.
I'm like, this actress is objectively thinner than other characters in the movie, including like some of the pink ladies. So in addition to it being horrible to say, it's also just inaccurate.
it's not right.
So I was like, wait, was this a thing in the movie in Act 1 I missed where they were talking about how she...
Yeah, no, it was really weird. How
Everyone just treats everyone like shit the whole fucking time.
So we get to the dance-off, National Bandstand, and it is when Cha-Cha showed up as a character. Mm-hmm. I finally knew... This is what I wrote down. I was like, now I know what it feels like when an obscure character shows up in an Avengers film. Except there is no Jack Kirby comic explaining what Cha-Cha's anti-life equation adventure with Danny was years ago. Because like this movie acts like, you all know Cha-Cha, right? I'm like, what is happening? So Cha-Cha is apparently Danny's ex from another school who is dating Leo. But Leo is going with Rizzo, because Kaneki and Rizzo had a fight because Rizzo thinks she's pregnant and doesn't want to deal with it.
More or less.
Everybody got that? Yeah. Everybody on board?
No, I mean, I
pretty deep.
get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
There was more. So there's a lot of dancing. Then halfway through this sequence, the principal announces that they haven't gone live with the show yet. And I'm like, half of this movie's in this dance hall, isn't it?
I still don't understand what transpired to make them get rid of Sandy.
So that,
Like,
okay, so
they just,
now...
it's like they just pull her. And
Yeah,
they're
all of a
like,
sudden it's just
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, you're gonna dance
yeah,
with this
so,
bitch for a
so
while.
we'll get there. So that's the final nail on the head of Sonny to me, because so first the coach, I just wanted to bring. So meanwhile, before that, we want to check in with Eugene again. The coach announced that all couples must be boy girl, and then the group makes fun of Eugene, calling him gay, and then they shove him to the floor. I'm just glad this movie found time to completely belittle another group of people. Yeah, Sonny pulls. Because I had to watch it twice to figure out. Sonny pulls Sandy off the dance floor and he places Cha-Cha in Sandy's place. I don't know why Sonny does that.
It's
So
so
you're
random.
just as confused as us.
So I think it's just a goof. You know, it's just a prank.
Like he danced with your ex-girlfriend.
Pranks, bro.
It's just a prank. Which, by the way, if any of you ever pulled my fiance off of a dance floor and put an X in my place,
Yeah.
I will never speak to you
So
again.
you're saying at your wedding, I should
So my
not
plan
bring
for your
ex.
wedding is just
Like,
off.
holy shit. The idea that you would ever be friends with a person who did that to you. Forget about the fact that it's on live national television.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. He just goes with it.
That's the weird part. We're like, well, I can't embarrass the audience at home.
I'm on national television. They need to think this was planned.
Yeah, I mean, the show must go on. Danny knows that, apparently.
I guess so. But it's sort of a play. He
It's,
just doesn't mind dancing.
And not only does he dance with her, he fucking wins.
And then he runs after Sandy. So he tries to make it up to her by taking her to a date in the drive-in. And he gives Sandy his class ring. Is
Yeah.
that what it is? And
No,
then
she wants no part of him at all.
Yes.
She is so mad at him, and then he's like,
understandably.
he's like, hey, but what about my ring? And then she's like, oh my God, Danny, I love you.
She
Immediately.
says, she says, now I know that you respect me.
Yeah.
And even before he then tried to force himself on her, I immediately thought, you're an idiot for thinking that.
Yeah.
And then it basically turns into John Travolta tries to rape her.
Yeah, it's really
Kind
weird.
of.
And then she closes the door on his dick, which, you know, good for her. Solid move. And meanwhile, this is when Rizzo tells not Frenchie, not Jan, the other one, that she's pregnant. And it gets back to Kaneki. They have they have it out at the drive-in. John Travolta sings because he said, that's the other problem. You know why this is a bad musical? Because you can cut all the songs out and the movie still makes sense.
Yep.
That's a problem. You never should be able to remove, if you have a song and you can remove it and the two scenes together, the movie still hangs together, the story still hangs together, you have a bad musical. That's what makes a bad musical. If you can remove the songs and the story still works, you have failed at a musical. The story happens in the songs. Character epiphanies happen in the song. That's not how Grease works.
I can't remember if it really means anything or if we're to this point yet, but the beauty school dropout song.
Yes, yes, we skipped. Sorry, I skipped over that. Frenchie drops out of beauty school and tries to find solace with one of the older waitresses at the malt shop.
I just feel like that entire subplot could have just been picked right out.
It's baffling because like who gives a shit about that's like C plot. We're not even B plot.
Yeah,
now.
and like the whole time, like I don't know, we're watching it. I'm just like, why? Like, why are we here? Why are we singing this song?
I knew right away. I was like, oh, this is like cream filling. You know, it's filler.
Yeah,
But the movie's long enough. You don't-
on a stage.
Yeah, the
Danny,
movie's already too fucking long.
It's because on a stage they're Danny and Zuko are in a costume change. Danny and Sandy are in a costume change.
So that makes sense, but in a movie, it doesn't make
No,
any
in
sense.
a movie you cut that shit. You don't even know shit about Frenchie and whether or not she should go back to high school. Who gives a shit? So I think now after that we're at the big race. Greased Lightning is finished. This weird enabler shop teacher, Miss Murdoch, promises to be at the illegal street race.
The Ben-Hur street race.
yeah.
Well, no, but I was talking to the shop teacher. Like, first of all, she's probably buying these kids alcohol, and secondly, she's definitely fucking a freshman, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
this teacher. Okay, just making sure.
It was a different time. It was okay to do back
she's
then.
just
it was
living her
before the
best
90s. Yeah, at the expense of these children, these 40-year-old children. And also, by the way, the street race. Apparently, Kaneki challenged this guy to a street race off camera, right? Like,
Yeah, it's gotta be. Like,
There's a lot of that in this movie where you get, like, of the subplots, particularly, like the B and C plots, you get, like, Act 1 of the subplot and Act 3. And it feels like they cut all the scenes where it's, like, where Kinnicky meets with Leo, where Frenchie fails at beauty school, where Rizzo realizes she might be pregnant, where, like, all these middle scenes are just, like, gone from the movie.
The way that they get John Travolta behind the wheel instead of Kinnicky,
Really
I'm like, what the fuck? Just replace it. Like, if you want John Travolta in the race, just make him the one with the car to begin
Well, yeah,
with.
he should be the one. What it should be is that Leo should drive up to the school and be like, hey, fucking Kinnicky, I remember you and your goddamn whore. And then John Travolta steps up and, like, fucking knocks him out. And Leo's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm like, we'll settle this on the streets. But, like how
Settle
hard is
this in the
that?
Thunderdome.
fuck this, we're racing for pinks.
Yeah, well, let's race for pinks, man. Like, yeah, because then your subplot ties back into your main character, and Sandy should be there and be like, don't do it, man. Don't do it. And he's like, this is who I am. And you're like, oh, shit. Drama.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine in a
for some
story?
reason, I just got Pee Wee Herman saying, I'm a loner,
Oh,
Johnny,
Johnny,
a rebel. He just gets in the car and just fucking races.
So there's a lot of famous car chases in the LA River. Terminator 2, Repo Man. This isn't one of them. This is just a Ben-Hur riff. It's super
it's
weird.
got that weird, like, spiked
What-
Christmas
what's-
tree.
Again, like, why did his car have spikes on the hubcaps?
Why do semis have it now? That shit freaks me out.
Because it's a Ben. I feel like, well, one, I think they're doing it because of Grease.
I thought it
All
was so that-
semi-truck drivers just love Grease.
I thought it was so that you
Or
gave them a
listen to the
wider berth.
soundtrack.
Yeah, you're supposed to. It's so you're afraid of this massive 4-ton object.
Yeah, you should probably already be afraid of it. They don't need the spikes.
Oh, I don't. You guys driven like a heavier vehicle before? Like a little car passing by too
almost
close,
every
like
day.
it knocks the steering wheel around. So the
Yeah,
spikes
yeah,
are
I
like
getcha.
stay
No, I
away
getcha.
from me. Now I don't approve of them. I think they're dumb, but
Yeah,
they're-
yeah.
I would even say edgy.
So they do the race. Dude, buddy
yeah,
wins.
yeah, dude, buddy. Yeah, Danny wins.
Of course.
Sandy's there to watch and
From afar.
And when Danny wins, is it Frenchie? She walks up to and goes, "I feel like I should change my life to be happy now."
Yeah, that's the moment to me where I was just like, what is happening? Because the entire crux of the film is Danny decides it's kind of a gift of the Magi kind of like bullshit where Danny's like, I'm going to change me to fit Sandy.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and, I
And
kinda,
then all of a sudden she's like, no, I'm going to change me to fit Danny.
Yeah,
I kind of was like,
yeah,
oh, she's moved
yeah.
on from him and she's grown as a person. This is at least
No.
a little
Yeah.
heartwarming.
She has not moved on.
Yeah.
And next time we see,
I sold my watch to buy you this.
Right.
Oh, I bought you this thing to fix your watch.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden she shows up at the very end of the movie at the,
Well-
congratulations, you graduated high school, get the fuck out carnival.
It's the gift of the Magi, but it's half the gift of the Magi because like, you get that scene with Sandy, and then you just sort of cut to Danny looking at her, and I'm like, I guess that's his equivalent of this scene. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get him deciding to change, which is a problem.
Well, no, he.
Well,
he
I mean,
did.
that was his
He
whole-
shows up in the little blazer.
You don't get, so you get her deciding to change, deciding. You don't get him deciding. Like, it should be like a duality. At this point, you should be cutting back and forth.
right.
Yeah.
You know.
Instead, you get him showing up, and then she shows up, and her.
She
Apparently-
shows up with big hair and a cigarette and is just like,
Apparently,
hey.
that outfit
Also, he
she was
fucking-
wearing, she had to be sewn into.
Well, because it broke, yeah.
And but yeah, so she shows up and he's like, "Oh fuck this!" and just throws his
Well, yeah,
clothes.
he barely changes. He wears exactly what he's always worn and puts a sweater over it.
And he's like, "Whoa,
She
never
actually
mind."
got into different clothing.
Yeah, changed her hair, changed her clothes, changed
He
everything.
drops a Letterman sweater off, and it's exactly who he was the whole fucking time.
surprise, it's me.
He's like,
me.
"Gotcha."
It's a me, Mario.
It was all awful. Like,
Well, this is where I mean, the sexual and gender politics of this movie, the sociopolitics of this movie are just atrocious. And not only atrocious because it's not even like you can take the wrong message from it, but even then the message, even if you didn't, the message is so confused. It doesn't know what it's trying to say. Because at one point you think, okay, well, I guess it's trying to say, I think in the best of all possible worlds, it's saying that cliques in high school are not your identity. And if you just be yourself, you'll find happiness with another person. Which is not the worst message in the world. But
They
the
relay
movie,
that very terribly.
I don't
If
understand
is
how
the
that-
message.
falls apart
right
so
at the very
quickly.
end, that doesn't even, because all of a sudden, if that was the message, now all of a sudden she's just like, well, I'm gonna fall into that identity anyway.
Well, yeah, because it feels like the problem is that the movie is basically like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
at the end, and that's the issue because they're at this carnival. Well, and then the movie takes this other shift, which is that we're at this carnival. So everybody graduates. They're at this carnival. And everyone's like, we're going to be friends forever, right? And they're like, yeah. And they start singing, like, wait, was that the theme? That we'll be friends forever?
Yeah, forever and ever.
That didn't seem like the theme of the movie.
Bing bong. Whatever.
Yeah.
The fuck
Also,
that
by the
song
way,
is.
somebody grabs Eugene and puts a pie in his face. So I can only assume he killed himself that summer.
I thought it was really strange that the two, in my opinion, most popular, or the songs I knew the most from Grease,
Or the
were
first one in the
no,
Grease
the
Lightning?
last two songs.
Okay.
For some reason, those last two songs are the ones that
You
I've
had to have
always
known Greased Lightning, though.
Yeah, but it's not what I remembered. But Summer Love, Grease Lightning, Bop Shawop Da Bop, Bing Bang Bang, whatever that song is, and the
Pretty close.
Close
you're
enough.
the one that I want, which I didn't know they were saying you're the one that I want until and
What
when
did
she's.
you think
I thought
they
they
were
were just
saying?
going. Bada, 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 bada.
Just making sounds?
I thought they were just making sounds because the song after it's just sounds. So why wouldn't I?
I mean, fair enough.
But so
know what?
For all this time, I was
It's
like,
hard to argue with that
I
logic.
was like, they're just making sounds.
There are
And-
songs where 90% of it is just... There are songs in this movie where 90% of it is just sounds they're making.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
And she told me that, and I was like, "Wait, it all makes sense, but now the song is worse."
Everything about this film was worse.
Oh, also Rizzo goes to Nicky and goes, surprise, I'm not pregnant.
I'm not
At
pregnant,
which
so
point
let's go
he's just like,
fuck.
oh, okay, cool. You belong to me now.
I own you now. You're like, and she's like, really?
Yeah, just like, oh,
I mean, sorry,
boy.
She's like, really?
I'm not pregnant, so let's go fuck.
Let's fix that.
It, so, to be honest, as much as I hate a lot of things about this movie, I enjoyed watching it.
You know my least favorite part of the movie? It's that the car flies away at the end.
I was so out of just
I-
out there.
To this day, like, if you asked me, like, before I rewatched this, what do I remember most about this movie?
It's the car flying.
It's
Well,
the car
it's-
flying away, because I'm like, based on, like, wait, what are you...
And it's
what?
not even shot well. You
Well,
don't,
yeah,
you
but,
don't
I
even
mean-
see the car fly. You see what looks like clouds and them
No,
going
it's just
up.
two. It's just two rear projection shots. But
Yeah, it's
but
awful.
Like,
It's
I
because
don't
they're getting high.
No.
really. Is that what we're supposed to take from it? Like, what is the meta? What are they trying to say?
If they want to
as a
say that, I
metaphor?
need to see the joint. I need to see the consumption
Show
of
me the
weed.
needle.
The
You don't
car
just-
flying away pissed me off so much. They get into a hot rod and they fly away, and then Olivia Newton-John looks back to camera and waves, and I was like, "Does she see us?"
Oh, no.
I get the suspension of belief with
Disbelief.
disbelief with
Oh, I suspended my belief
belief.
for this movie.
with
I decided to not believe.
it worked with Grease Lightning, like the song. It
Yeah.
worked with Beauty School Dropout because it's them kind of
Well,
singing in their head.
Yeah,
Well,
though you're
yeah.
not meant to believe that what's happening is really happening
But
because
the-
reality comes back at the end.
But this is them like no, they're
no, they
flubber.
left. They flew away.
They went
and
to
everyone-
Robin Williams. They got some flubber, and they went to the fucking moon. Like I don't know where they got it, but
I went to Jerry Lewis, got some flubber.
Yep.
Has anyone seen Grease 2?
absolutely not.
Fuck no.
Well, surprise! No, I didn't.
Surprise! I watched it.
I'm very disappointed in you.
Did you watch
Well,
Grease 3?
guess what? No, I didn't watch Grease 2. Although apparently, Grease 2 was part of a planned trilogy of sequels, and then after the flop of Grease 2, they canceled the other two. And I was like, what would have 3 and 4 been? I looked at the Wikipedia of Grease 2 and saw that Leo returned, and I was like, that kind of makes me want to watch it.
Is he the lead?
No, but he's back as Leo.
I kind of want to see Grease from the Scorpions' perspective.
What is with all these crazy
Like,
motherfuckers?
maybe-
But
Maybe off
it's not
camera.
but it's not a musical, and they don't understand why everyone's
Everything.
singing.
Singing.
But like maybe the T-Birds are doing some weird shit to the Scorpions.
So, Grease 2 is set 2 years after the original Grease. It's the same school, but it's a new relationship between new T-Birds and new Pink Ladies. Except it's Michelle Pfeiffer and Maxwell Caulfield.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, it's Michelle Pfeiffer.
When was this made?
This was
92.
No, it was made in like 82? Yeah, 82. Also, Christopher McDonald's one of the T-Birds.
Sounds like you're watching it.
I might.
You enjoy.
So who's
Good
back
luck,
from
have
Greece? So Frenchie comes back, the principal comes back, Sid Caesar comes back.
I thought it was everybody except for the two leads.
It's not everybody. Mr. Spears comes back. I don't know who Mr. Spears was. I don't like Grease mostly for the messaging of the movie. I think as a movie, it's not incompetent, but I wouldn't call it good.
It's not competent either.
Yeah. Isn't that bad? Isn't that good either?
Yeah, by definition, that would make it incompetent.
It's neither. It's such a not movie.
It's a thing. People like it.
It's the kind of movie where you're like, this is because of John Travolta. This is why people like this movie. This is why it had any cultural cachet. Because at the time, John Travolta was an incredibly charismatic young star, and he is charismatic in this movie. Like when he is singing and dancing, he is charismatic.
All right. What else do we want to say?
So what's our final thoughts on
Grease?
Greece? Their economics are poor.
It's a
What the fuck?
I
Wow,
think
2009 called the one that joke.
Yep. You're welcome.
I didn't hate
That
it.
tells you what I think about it.
I didn't hate watching it. I hate things that the movie is about.
I hate that it exists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate
The act of watching it is not nearly as bad as knowing
That
it
it
exists.
exists.
it did a lot of things that I found very wrong, but
No.
I don't know, I didn't mind it. Like watching it wasn't as bad as I thought. When you said let's watch Grease, I was like fuck that. But I think it also helped. I had somebody singing in the whole
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. You had somebody that wanted
You
to
had a
watch it
goddamn
with you.
Grease cheerleader.
Right.
Right.
I had nothing. I had my sadness to accompany me.
And I'm really scared and disappointed that so many people think this movie is legendary.
Yeah, it's
That's the part that bugs me.
I think it's because they haven't watched it since it came out.
I don't like the phrase "this has not aged well"
This has not aged
because
well.
I don't think it's fair to hold certain. I don't think overall it's necessarily fair to hold art to a modern standard. However, I do believe art should survive into a modern standard, and that's what makes like timeless art, cultural art. So I think like unfortunately the simple truth is the sexual politics of Greece were wrong then, and they and
Triple wrong.
And now watching it now, you're like, oh, this is worse.
yeah, it's just worse. Like it was bad in 1978 to hold up the 50. Like it is a post Roe v. Wade movie, but it's holding up this ideal of the 50s as like, shouldn't we just go back to when we could just like, you know, knock women around?
Yeah, wasn't
like,
life
shit
better
like
when they just
garbage?
did as they were told?
Yeah, like I think that's the shitty part. Like
It's
that's
infuriating.
why it doesn't work because in my opinion, I'm like, this didn't work then.
Terrible. Terrible.
Garbage. Now I hate it even more.
You've been listening to Cattywampus. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr at CattyWampusPod. Email us at cattywampuspodcast@gmail.com. Music by Tilly.